China is the most populated nation on Earth and home to a booming organ transplant industry. However, over the past decade, reports have emerged that the majority of organs are not sourced from death row prisoners and donations, as stated by officials, but rather from innocent prisoners of conscience murdered on demand. In June 2016, 3 independent investigators jointly published a 680-page report of irrefutable evidence. Hearings were held by the U.S. Congress, the British Parliament, the European Parliament, and the Canadian Parliament. The U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed a resolution condemning the systematic state-sanctioned organ harvesting from non-consenting prisoners of conscience. China's killing for organs is making a major appearance across media outlets all over the world. In 2006, it first came to light that prisoners of conscience were being killed on demand for organ transplants in secret detention facilities throughout China.
It was back in 2005 when a patient of mine, who has been on the top list of patients for human heart transplantation, came to me one day and told me that he was told by his insurance company, his Israeli insurance company, to go to China in 2 weeks' time as he was scheduled to undergo heart transplantation. And when I asked him how come such a surgery can be scheduled ahead of time, somebody has to die on the very day of the operation, he said he didn't know, and he went to China and got his heart transplantation exactly on the date that he was promised.
In northeastern China, the International Transplantation Network Assistance Center stated on its website, China carries out kidney transplants from living sources. It's completely different from cadaveric kidney transplants in Japan.
They're watched very, very closely indeed by the top leadership. So they're fully aware of this, as well as the fact that Wang Lijun, one of the Bo Xilai, who was a contender for the Chinese presidency, this was his right-hand man. He was the most famous policeman in all of China. Here he is directing organ trafficking. I mean, he had a center which did this. He was given an award for doing this, and specifically for coming up with a new lethal injection method. He did thousands of transplants by his own admission. In the award ceremony, he talks about that.
There was no organ donation system in China before 2010. Even today, there are very few donations. In countries with advanced organ donation and allocation systems, patients must usually wait years for a donor to become available. Yet in China, waiting times are commonly in weeks.
Because they have a bank of live donors waiting to get a match on the computer.
In 1999, the crackdown of Falun Gong starts. That is the largest action of scale by the Chinese Communist Party since the Cultural Revolution. And by 2000, 2001, that's when you have this explosion of transplant activity. We see continuity in the numbers over time. Falun Gong is as I call it, it's kind of a Buddhist revival group. It doesn't have churches and so forth, doesn't have temples. What it has is sort of common beliefs.
These shared beliefs revolve around self-improvement based on the values of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. By the end of the 1990s, the Chinese government estimated that over 70 million of its citizens were practicing Falun Gong. Jiang Zemin, the head of the Communist Party at the time, saw Falun Gong's popularity and revival of traditional values as a threat to his rule, and launched a violent campaign to eradicate it in July 1999.
The official line in terms of repression of Falun Gong of the party is bankrupt them financially, ruin their reputations, destroy them physically. So that the vilification is destroying their reputations, the organ transplants is destroying them physically.
The systematic government-sponsored harvesting of organs is a monstrous crime.
I strongly believe that the 17-year campaign to eradicate Falun Gong will be seen as one of the great shames of recent Chinese history.
This is a new form of genocide, and it's using the most respected members of society to implement it. This is one of the central tests of our time. We can't avoid this any longer.